Hey lovelies! So in the last few weeks, as the temperature is starting to cool and autumn is making its presence known, you guys have been asking for more and more fall dessert recipes, and today I am really excited to deliver. We are going to be making some homemade donuts from scratch. Now, technically these are actually donut holes, but you get the picture. They're really, really yummy. I'm gonna show you a classic version, and then I'm going to make an apple cinnamon version, and of course a pumpkin spice version because it is the fall after all. Do not be fooled, guys. These are actually a lot easier to make than you might think. I'm going to be frying them today, but you also have the option to bake them if you prefer. It really is up to you. There are two kinds of donuts in the world. One is a yeast-based donut that needs to rise, and the other is a cake donut, and it uses baking powder to rise instead of yeast. And today we're going to be making the baking powder kind. It's a lot easier, I think, and makes for really tasty donuts, not to worry. We are going to start with some all-purpose flour in a bowl, and to that I'm going to add some sugar, my baking powder, as well as a little bit of salt, and I'm also going to add just a sprinkle of ground nutmeg. Now, nutmeg is absolutely classic in any old-fashioned donut recipe. You can skip it if you want to, but trust me, it gives it just a little bit of flavor, makes it extra delicious. We're gonna whisk all of these ingredients together until they're well combined, because we wanna make sure that all of our donuts have equal lift. And once that's all whisked together, we can get to work on whisking together our wet ingredients. Now, I'm starting with some buttermilk in this recipe. You can use whole milk here, but I find the tanginess of buttermilk works perfectly in a recipe like this. I'm going to add 1 egg to that, as well as some melted butter, and I'll round that all out with just a touch of vanilla extract for some great flavor. We'll whisk all of this together, and then I'm going to stir my dry ingredients into my wet ingredients. I'll mix that all together until it's well combined, and then we are ready to get these donuts frying up. If you are gonna fry these in oil, a couple things you'll want to keep in mind. You wanna use a nice big pot like this. I'm using a Dutch oven. It's a nice cast iron pot, very heavy. You could also do this in stainless steel. You wanna make sure that your oil is no more than halfway up your pot. That will ensure that nothing sort of drips over. And you wanna use a meat thermometer to ensure your oil is at the right temperature. So what we're looking for is a temperature between 360 and 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're sitting exactly there right now. Okay, so at this point, it's time to get our donuts into the oil. Now to do this, I'm actually using a cookie scoop. It's such a handy tool in the kitchen. It just makes for really uniform donut holes, and everything will sort of stay the same size and cook really evenly. We're just gonna go into our dough and drop it into our oil like so. Now, if you're doing any frying in your kitchen, I highly recommend all of your tools are on hand when you get started, because things actually fry up very quickly. You don't want to be scrambling around your kitchen looking for things you need. I am using a spider for this job. This is a metal spider. It basically is going to allow me to flip these over in the oil, and then once they're cooked on both sides, I'm going to use my metal spider to sort of lift these donuts out. 2 minutes per side until they are nice and golden brown. All right, at this point, these donuts are ready to come out. We're gonna lift them a couple at a time out of our oil and onto our baking tray. And as soon as those donuts are cool enough to touch, I'm actually going to roll them in a little bit of granulated sugar. Now, you could do this with some powdered sugar as well, but I like granulated sugar. It's a little more classic, feels a little more rustic and old-fashioned, and it makes for a really pretty, almost snowy effect. And come on, guys, how delicious do these look? They're soft, they're squishy, they've got a perfect cakey consistency. Your whole family is going to love them. They will store for a few days, but I think they're best enjoyed hot and fresh straight from the fryer. Now, once you've got the classic recipe down, you really can doll these up with tons of different flavors. Today, because we're going with a fall theme, I am going to be making some apple cinnamon donuts for you guys, starting with the very same ingredients. So I've got my dry ingredients, a little bit of flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. In addition to my nutmeg though, I'm going to be using a heaping helping of cinnamon in my donuts. Then for my wet ingredients, I once again am going to mix up my buttermilk, egg, butter, and vanilla extract, but this time I'm going to be adding a big helping of apple butter. Now, if you're not familiar, apple butter is this really amazing apple-based spread. You can usually find it in the same section of your supermarket as the jams. I don't know why they call it butter instead of jam. It's got a really concentrated apple flavor, so the best part is a little will go a long way in making your donuts amazing. I'm just gonna whisk all of my wet ingredients together, add my dry ingredients once again, and once this is all mixed up, it is ready to hit the fryer. Now I will say, because of the sugar in that apple butter, these will tend to get a little darker on the exterior. They are still super yummy. And I think they are most delicious when rolled in a little mixture of cinnamon and sugar. These little beauties served up with some fresh coffee. Oh, there's a lot to love. A perfect way to say good morning. Finally, for all you pumpkin spice lovers out there, and I know there are a lot of you, we are going to be making some pumpkin spice donuts. Oh yeah, it's gonna be good. They start once again with our dry ingredients, flour, sugar, baking powder, and a sprinkle of salt. But instead of our nutmeg here, we are using a big helping of a pumpkin pie spice. Now, you can either buy the store-bought kind that's usually available in the spice aisle at your supermarket, or you can actually make your own. It's a lot simpler than you might think. I have a recipe for it on my website. I will link it in the description box below. Either way, what you're going to do is whisk all those dry ingredients together till they're well incorporated. Then we'll get to our wet ingredients. So once again, we'll get our buttermilk, egg, butter, and vanilla extract into our bowl. And we're also going to be adding some pumpkin puree to this recipe. Now, I am one of those people that firmly believes anything that is pumpkin spice actually also has to have some real pumpkin in it. If for no other reason, then it adds a ton of great color and fiber to whatever you're making. So I'm gonna get my pumpkin puree into my mixture, give it all a good whisk, and then I'm going to stir my dry ingredients into my wet ingredients. To the stove we go. Once again, we will cook these for about 2 minutes on the first side, flip them, let them cook for another 2 to 2.5 minutes on the second side. And then we are going to be rolling these beauties in some pumpkin spice sugar, which of course is just some pumpkin pie spice added to some granulated sugar and mixed up really well. These are completely delicious and basically embody all the best flavors of fall. They also have a pretty pumpkin-y color. Guys, I really cannot say enough amazing things about today's recipes. Don't believe me? I hope you will try them for yourselves. If you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo, because I always love seeing your kitchen creations. Remember, all of these delicious recipes are linked in the description box below. You can find them there. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.